Welcome back to Build for Health, where we pull back the curtain on what it takes to build a strong, healthy body and a fitness routine that sticks. I'm Pete Wright, here with Srdjan Injac, and today we're digging into something that will make or break your training: form and isolation. Good form isn't just about looking pretty in the mirror. It's the foundation that keeps you safe and makes every rep count. And isolation work, that's where you slow things down. You zoom in on weak spots and build the kind of muscle control that pays off in big lifts and in everyday life. Together, they're less about show and more about go, and we're going to explore how dialing them in can unlock progress at every stage of your fitness journey. Srdjan, here we are. Hello. I'm very excited about today. We've been talking a little bit, we'll say cerebrally, about finding the right trainer, finding the right gym. Today, we're going to get practical again. Yes. We're talking about form and isolation. When people think about form, I hope they're thinking about posture and angles and such. But what does good form actually mean when we're talking from your perspective as a trainer?
I go into very details when it comes to form. I'm huge on form. And that comes from years of experience when you go through a lot of injuries and figuring out how to prevent those injuries and working with people that are coming from surgeries and things like that. That's when you start actually thinking about more form and focusing on the form more than the weight. So making sure that you know how to execute things right so you're safe. So when I talk about form, I go into every single detail that people don't expect me to talk about. They just think, okay, it's just the posture. Because at the very beginning, when I do a couple free sessions for them, just to that's for me to kind of assess their body and see their posture first, of course. And then I talk about their posture and what they need to improve on. And then we start working out. And then I start going into details and explaining the form. And I go into not just in the mechanics, but where the muscles are located, what part of the bone, what's the origin, what's the insertion of the muscle, the way it moves, the directions that the fibers go, and all that stuff. So I go into a little more detail that they don't really expect me to go into. And they're like, oh my God, all these things I have to think about. Now, all of a sudden, this simple exercise that they think, a simple movement that they saw everyone doing, thinking, oh, that's all you have to do, just pull the bar or whatever. When I start explaining, now I have to pay attention to all these little details. And then it's oh my God, it's too much. You start paying to one and then you forget the other one. And then you start thinking about that one. And then something else falls apart. And I keep talking and correcting them. And it's just, they sometimes get overwhelmed. They're oh my God, there's so many things I have to remember. And then I'm like, how many did you do? They're like, oh my God, I have no idea. I didn't even count. There's so many things.
Yeah.
So it's very important that they execute the exercise right, that they understand exactly what they're doing and why are they doing it and where the muscle is located that they're working on. Everything they need to understand. They need to know. They need to picture them. That's how when I work out, it's weird. I'm literally picturing the muscle in my body where it's at and the way it's working.
You said something to me yesterday as I was walking out of the gym, that if I really wanted to know about good form and isolation, and we'll talk about isolation in a minute, that I should go out and buy a kinesiology textbook?
Yeah. I told people, I tell them, just buy the kinesiology book or just go online and, maybe get the flashcards and learn about the muscles, what the location of the muscle is. You have to know. You can't just be oh, it's over here in this area and stuff like that. And you can point, but where is it located? What bone does it start? Where does it end? Because that way you'll understand the movement better. So learn about the muscles itself and the action, and then everything else will make sense.
This is the part that feels like news to me, right? Because I go in the gym, I see all these machines, and the machines are, if I'm not looking at free weights, I'm looking at things with cables and bars and things on rails. Mm-hmm. And I see all the little cartoon diagrams that say when I'm doing something kind of like this, it's going to work that. And it's easy for me to say to myself, well, that I know enough, right? I'm just going to
Yeah.
mimic the IKEA diagram on this machine, and
Yeah.
I'm going to be fine. But what I'm hearing you say, and I think what my experience is working with you, that's very different. And so from it, when you're, I mean, you say you're thinking about individual muscles. How do you like, what do you want me thinking about when I'm feeling overwhelmed? Like, you want me learning those muscles and learning why the machines, just doing what the machines say on the IKEA diagram, aren't enough.
Definitely. They're not enough. And some of those drawings I see and I'm like, oh my God, this is so completely wrong. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know who drew this, or I'm like, this is I hope nobody's looking at this and trying to mimic what's on this. Because they'll just show the only good part that they have, they'll show the muscle, they'll highlight the muscle that you're working on, that you're supposed to be isolating. That's the only thing that they're right about.
Okay.
But everything else, they don't really have a good explanation. I mean, you would need a lot more writing to write a lot more about the exercise
Yeah.
itself. Just because it's a machine, it's not really that always simple. Because there's a lot of machine that I sit on and I try, and I'm like, you know what? It just doesn't feel right. The machine is like maybe meant for the shoulders, and I'm like, I'm just not feeling it there. It's just the way it was made. When I sit on it, when I move, I can tell that it's not hitting right spot because I know where it's supposed to hit and how it's supposed to feel. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like this machine. So I'm going to
Yeah.
move to another one. Like a lot of people don't know. They'll just move the way the machine moves and think
Yeah.
they're doing it right.
Well, the
So,
assumption is that the machine was designed in a way that's going to make my body move the way I need to move to get that muscle. But what's striking me right now, which seems, I know to you, totally obvious, but what's striking me right now is that it's only partly the machine. That the other part of this equation is the body, and some bodies, I imagine, aren't going to work well with all machines.
no, it depends also. There's like, for example, where I used to work out the gym there, they had this ab machine, which there's so many ab machines. You don't really need the machine for the abs. There are so many different exercises you can do that. But the machine just didn't work for everyone. Like if you were 6 feet and over, like it will work well. For anyone that's under 6 feet, that machine will just kill your back and arms, and you are not going to even use your abs. You're going to probably use your arms to pull and all that stuff. So it's some of the machines are not really meant for everyone, because I feel like sometimes when they build the machine, they don't really think about people's height and weight, and if they're going to fit when they execute, when they do that machine, if it's going to actually hit that muscle, or they're going to be using other muscle groups to pull, are they going to be able to fit in? And every machine, I feel like they should be able to adjust not just the seat but the handles and everything else, so you can actually fit their height and their arm expansion and other things, just because not everyone's, like I said, built it, like you said, built it, they're all built differently. We're not built all the same. So that's why some of the machines, I'm like, you shouldn't be doing this. Or that's why at my gym, if you notice, like I have so many different attachments. Some of them smaller, some of them bigger. Some of them people look at it like, oh my God, I don't even know how to use this. And I'm like,
That checks out. That absolutely checks out.
yeah, for like a pull downs, like, for the lat pull down machine. And I have the attachment with this bar with a whole bunch of holes, and there are people looking at it, they don't know where to adjust. I'm like, that all depends on your height and your how long your arms are and everything. So that way I can adjust exactly to fit for you. So
Is there such a thing as attention to form becoming too strict?
no, it needs to be strict. You need to know what you're doing, and if you're because then you'll know exactly if you're doing it wrong when you start cheating, and when you start like breaking down the form, you'll know like, okay, I'm breaking down the form now. I'm pushing and pulling with other muscle groups, and I might get hurt. So when you go heavyweight, you have to make sure that the form is just perfect. If you're going heavy, if you're going lighter, people do all this kind of different movements just to kind of get the blood flow and stuff like that, which is fine. But when you're putting the weight and when you're isolating that one muscle, particular muscle or on that machine, you have to make sure that you're doing it right.
Well, that's a great that's a great segue for us, because the other thing I want to talk about that is, I think, directly related to form is isolation versus compound exercises. And, we're specifically focusing on isolation, but the question, the broadest sort of table setting question is, when should we focus on isolation work versus compound lifting?
I mean, they're both important. You should do both of them. And the compound exercises are great for the strength and for the core itself. Like people use that compound exercise more to include their core and get the strength. So they don't have to, compound muscles, compound exercise, you don't have to go really that heavy, because there's multiple muscle groups that are involved in those movements. When the isolation is just that one certain muscle that that you're trying to target, or if you're on the machine that machine is made for. And that's why you have to know the form, even the compound form. You have to know how to execute it right, because it's easy, because some of them are like very explosive exercises, compound exercise, so you need to know that you're doing it right and how to execute it, because in that explosive movement you can move the wrong way, and if you're not ready, or if you're too fatigued, you can either get hurt, really injured, with either your shoulders or your back or your knees or whatever the movement you do. But they're very important, so that's why you need to know the form if you're going to execute those exercises that are compound exercises that are a little bit more risky, because every exercise that you do comes with a certain level of risk, right? Some of them are more risky to execute because you have multiple joints and muscle groups working at the same time. And then, you have the ones that are like very simple. If you just do like a bicep curl, it's a very simple exercise. It's not that dangerous. You're not probably going to get hurt, even if you cheat a little bit, different from like a snatching or like doing stuff like they're more compound like exercises. So you have to know which exercise you can actually load up and put more weight. That's kind of safer for you to do, and which ones are a little bit more riskier, and you have to pay more attention to the form. So you probably don't want to really load up and try to do, maximum weight that you can do. So also that depends. And then you start looking at the, when it comes to weight, how heavy I should go. It depends also on the size of the muscle,
So if you're doing the sort of inverted sumo squat, you could maybe load up because you're working big muscles.
Yeah, when it's working big muscle, that means you can load up a lot of weight. Attachment to the bone is bigger and stronger. So then like a smaller muscle, like, when you have work on your biceps and your rear delts and stuff like that, that's smaller muscle. It's easier to rip those muscles because they're small, like they're weaker. So you don't need to load up a lot of weight for like to do rear delts, so you also have to know that as well. So we take all that as the trainer, like you should take all that into consideration and explain to you why on, this exercise you can go where it can do only like 4 or 6 reps. And on this one, like bicep curls, you don't need to get that low. If you try to go that heavy where you can only do 4, the chances of you ripping that muscle is a lot higher. It's a smaller muscle. It doesn't really need that much weight. So
it's interesting to me because it seems like we're challenging a myth that isolation is mainly for bodybuilders. Like if you're doing isolation work, then you're really just doing it to show off the curves and the sinew and perform.
Oh yeah, I do isolation on all of my clients, because when I look at them, the first 2 sessions when we do and we go through the assessment and looking at their posture, and then I can see all the muscles where they're more dominant and the weaker muscles, and they start complaining, usually have some joint problems and stuff like that and pain, and their joints is fine. It's just a muscle imbalance, and that's why you have to now isolate that weaker muscle, get it stronger, so there's a good balance, so there's no pain on the joint. So sometimes just because you feel it in your back or your shoulder or your knee doesn't mean that that's the problem, that's where the problem's coming from. It's coming from somewhere else. It's just you're feeling it there. The joints is feeling it because there's a muscle imbalance. One side is pulling more than the other one, right? So you got to even things out. And then you isolate those certain weaker muscles so there's no any muscle imbalances, and then the posture is right and everything else. That's why then form comes into a play. That's important. So all those components, they all kind of connected.
Well, and I'm the other context in which I hear about isolation work is in PT, right? Is in a physical therapy context, right? When you injure something and it's usually the result of, as you're talking about, a smaller muscle or a tendon or a ligamental tear or something like that. And so you're working on the little muscles to rebuild. But boy, all I can think about is I wish those little muscles were stronger so that I wouldn't injure myself so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do a lot of stuff that physical therapists do, and I get a lot of people after the surgeries, and I do a lot of post-rehab stuff, helping them rebuild that muscle and the strength in those muscles and the size and everything. And you have to start slow, make sure that they understand the form. That's why it's important. And do the things sometimes they think, oh, this is kind of boring and it's easy and then all that stuff, when you're working on the stabilizer muscles and trying to explain them the importance of that, because you want to build that muscle memory, because the stuff that you do at the gym, the body will learn, kind of get used to those movements. And so when you're outside and you're doing whatever yard work, or if you're just walking and you step off the curb the wrong way and your foot is about to twist, or you're about to twist your ankle or knee, if you worked on those stabilizers muscles, if you've done things at the gym that you have that muscle memory, it will just go right back, and you won't twist your foot, the knee, you won't dislocate your knee or stuff like that, because the body doesn't know if it's now at the gym, if you're exercising, or if you were about to get hurt from
The body doesn't
stepping
care.
off the foot. It doesn't know. That's why you build this muscle memory. That's why you practice and work do these little things. So they're all important. So that's why I always encourage people. I'm like, do this and do that, like all the small things, and all these rehab stuff, exercises that people do, and I'm like, okay, I'm good, I'm strong, okay, I'm fine. Like, let's do all their big things. I'm like, no, you're kind of losing the whole picture of this, because I remember when, for example, me and my brother, we were in this huge car accident, and the ambulance came in. They took us to the ER, and they had to check us because the car was completely totaled. They didn't think that anybody survived inside. So we got checked in, and they do an MRI and X-ray, all that stuff, and the doctor comes and was like, "This is crazy. It's like, you guys are completely fine. Like, there's no injuries. There's no anything like that." And he's looking at us and he was like, "You guys probably go to gym. Seems like you guys work out and all that stuff." And we're like, "Yeah, we've been doing it for years. And this is what I do, So he was, and then he said the same thing. He was like, "Say, the body was just going through the stuff that you do every day. You didn't know if you were at the gym or if you just went through the car accident." It was like, you might wake up tomorrow and just feel a little bit sore, just like after the workout. And that's it, because you're like completely fine. All the joints are fine. There's no injuries. So I woke up next morning. I remember my brother called me. He was like, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "I'm fine." He was like, "Do you want to go hit the gym?" I'm like, "Sure." So we went and we did the workout.
Yeah, right.
So,
that's super motivating, right?
Yeah,
like to
because
hear
you don't
stories
realize,
like that.
you don't realize how much that actually helps, and the importance of doing all this stuff is like, the body is amazing.
Yeah. You teased an answer to a question I had it written down here, which was, about ego lifting, right? How do you help coach people who come in just because they're looking for more weight and they don't care so much about form? Just like, I just want to inflict, pain on my muscles so that I can see size. Give me more weight.
Oh,
Versus
I had those.
boring, like, oh, I don't want to do form. I don't care about form.
I had those actually, and I was actually talking about that to one of my clients this morning. But I had one guy, he was all about the weight. And he was just pushing it. I would keep telling him, like, slow it down, control, all that stuff. And he was like, I can do it. I can do more. I can do more. And at one point, he was doing a incline chest press. And on the way down, he was so fatigued and he was going too fast. And he tore the rotator cuff. He pushed it down. And I'm like, and he was like, oh man, I felt something. And I knew exactly what was going on. I'm like, man. And then next morning, he texted me. He was like, yeah, I can't move my shoulder. My arm hurts, all that stuff. I'm going to have to go get checked there. So now he's back. Oh, now he listens to every word I say. Like, there's no more lifting. Now I put more weight. He was like, let's go down. Let's keep it there. Like, we don't need more weight. I'm like, oh, now you don't need more weight. It's like,
well, and that's like the big question, right? Do you have to get injured to learn those lessons?
Sometimes you do. Those ego lifters, they're going to get hurt at one point and they're going to realize, and we all been, I've been at that point. I remember when I was younger and it was all about weight, putting weight. And then once you get hurt and, go through a lot of injuries, and you'll see a lot of trainers that are a little bit older, more experienced, they pay attention to details. Now they're more about the form. They learn the hard way. And all these younger guys, I can sometimes watch them. I'm like, I don't think you should be doing that. And that's a little bit too much weight. You're not doing it right. I'm like, watch this, watch that. So I try to kind of give them some pointers and all that stuff. And most of them will listen. And, I'm like, don't want to hear it, learn the hard way the way I did. But I'm like, trust me, you don't have to do this or do that. And people do something like fancy exercises and they want to just look cool. I'm like, trust me, all those boring exercises that you think they still work. Like,
yeah.
You don't have to get all crazy because, everyone's trying to come up with something new, something cool, something like different, or like exercise is going to blow your muscle up and it's going to be huge. And so I'm like, it's not the exercise. I'm like, so all these other ones, boring ones, will do the same thing. We'll do this job
Well,
just as much. It's just,
let me ask you, because I think
crazy.
this is important. Which would you rather work with? An ego, like in terms of your objective of molding someone into the perfect client? Someone who comes in the door and is objectively an ego lifter. They're just looking to bulk up. They want more weight. They just throw hurting bombs. Or someone who is naturally too conservative. Someone who isn't naturally able to push themselves to, as you say, give your body a reason to change. Someone who's just kind of stuck on routine and is too, whatever the word, afraid, conscientious, whatever, to increase weight to the point that they're actually able to do more.
See, I would rather work with that. I can talk to them. I can show them like how they could break down from that routine and they actually, make progress. And the ego lifters is just they're just so stubborn. They're gonna try no matter what to take more weight and push more weight, and they're gonna get hurt. And when they get hurt, that's when they learn the lesson. Even though you can tell them the same thing over and over again, they're just not gonna listen. Everyone else, they will listen. They will pay attention. Like personally, sometimes I like working with females more than males because the males are more ego lifters and they just want to lift more weights, and they always take everything as a competition. They see me and they're trying like to compete with me and they're like, oh, what's your weight? I'm like, it doesn't matter what my weight, how I'm lifting. I can lift 10 times more. It's not important. Like I've been doing this for a lot longer than you. So you don't have to compete with me. Well, you do this, but I'm like, just do your own weight. With the females, they pay attention to details. They don't care about the weights. Sometimes I have to force them to grab more weight because they're scared.
Yeah.
But then they'll listen. They'll listen more where the guy is just like, okay. And then, grab more weight. I'm like, I just told you, just go a little bit, like 10 pounds lighter. Come on. I can do this. It's just like they're trying to either impress you or something. And then I'm like, you don't need to impress me. It's fine. Just you'll impress me if you listen. And you'll get there, and then you'll see the progress, and that's what's going to impress me. You progressing, but one guy that I had this morning, like I said, I talked to him, and he keeps grabbing more and more weight, and he was like, "Yeah, I just keep looking at the weights and how much I'm lifting." I'm like, "No, look how you lift." I'm like, "You've been stuck on this." He was like, "I've been stuck on the same weight." Yeah, because you've been doing the wrong the form was like all over the
Right.
place. So of course you're never going to go higher because you're not even isolating that one muscle that's supposed to get stronger that will allow you to go heavier.
The one that'll do
Yeah,
the work. Yeah.
exactly. So you're always going
Yeah.
to stay the same because your form is not right. All the other muscle groups are going to kick in. You're cheating with other, parts of your body, and that muscle is still going to stay the same. And of course, you
Yeah.
can't progress. You're never going to move from that weight. It's
Yeah.
just like go a little bit lighter, make sure you activate that muscle over time. That muscle will strengthen and you slowly start going up. And then you'll increase your reps and then you go increase your weight. And that's how you move up. Like you can't just right away, I want 10, I want 15, 20, 25, but add more 10 pounds, 20 pounds. It's like, no, it's just like, and sometimes you're not going to feel that strong. You're not going to have all that energy. It's like, well, last week I did this way. I'm like, well, maybe this week you're not going to feel it because maybe you didn't get enough sleep. You didn't eat right. You didn't drink enough water. You had more stress at work. All this stuff will influence your workout. So sometimes I come in and even my warm up just feels heavy. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, everything just feels heavy no matter what I grab. And there's days where I feel like, oh my God, I can go more. I can go more. And just weight keeps going because you feel good. So it's just like, just go how you feel that day. And don't try to push too hard. Listen to your body. Because otherwise, it's really not worth trying to push that much weight. You get hurt and then you're out for like a month or maybe even 2 months,
Sure.
even worse.
Yeah.
Maybe you need the surgery or maybe, rehab. And it's going to set you back in everything. So is it really worth trying to do that? Or stay safe, listen to your body and be able to come in next week. Maybe next week you'll feel better and you're going to push more weight.
Yeah.
So it's really not worth it, worth the risk. And there are some exercises that just because the risk is so high, I never give it to my clients. I don't even do it because I'm like, there's no point. There are so many different exercises that I can develop that certain muscle and limit the risk and be fine
Sure.
and be able to come in next week and do it again. Then, try to push it and just hurt myself. There's really no, and I've actually been doing much better and less injuries, and I feel stronger and look bigger. So it just sometimes it will take a while to learn that stuff.
In our last couple of minutes, I scoured the internet. I'm really talking about Reddit, and I kind of reframed some questions that people were asking over in one of the building threads over there. And I want to just throw a couple of questions at you, which I think are representative of our conversation. And I like this one first. How do I know if my form is actually good if I don't have a trainer watching me? Are mirrors enough? Am I able to gauge my own form correctly, or should I be filming myself? Is that an option that what is the process for being able to gauge your own form?
That's what I used to do, filming. So I would put the camera different angles a couple of times, and then I will film it because sometimes you can't really see every angle if you're looking straight at the mirror. And you can't tell if you're really rounding your back or if you're, if you're lined up, if your elbow is lined up with your shoulder or whatever. So the video will actually help you. And then you go by the feeling, not really how it looks on the mirror. Because sometimes I know people used to make fun of me. They're like, you're standing in front of the mirror, but you have your eyes closed. So I'm like,
oh yeah,
I'm trying to focus. So that's kind of that mind-body connection. I know what it is. I'm picturing it, and I'm supposed to feel it right there at that exactly spot. If I'm doing shoulders, like I got to feel it right there at that mid-delt. And I'll know if I'm doing it wrong because I'm not going to feel it. And I'm like so focused on it, like I know exactly where it's located, and that's exactly where I'm trying to think about moving. Because with my clients, I'll try to teach them that mind-body connection when they do it. And when they start doing it, I start tapping on that muscle that's supposed to be working. Because when you tap on it, when you touch, like your body goes directly to the, you start thinking about where I'm tapping. And I'm like, feel it here, focus on here. So they're training their mind to focus on that exact spot while you're doing that exercise. So they'll know how it feels and if they're doing it right. So, and then sometimes I'll film. I'll take my phone, and while they're doing the exercise, I'll film it, and I'm showing them, like, remember when I tell you, keep the shoulders back and all that stuff, and you feel like you're doing it. I'm like showing them, see how it moves back and forth.
Yeah.
And they see it, they're like, oh, I didn't realize, I didn't notice, I couldn't feel it. So then I start putting them in a position. So that's how I teach them to understand if they're doing it right or not. And you can do that yourself. Just put a phone at a different angles, front, back, side, film every time, and just look at it, and then just slow it down. When you're looking at it, like I show them and I press play, and then I slow it down so they can kind of see how sometimes the body moves like back and forth, back and forth. Because sometimes when you play it really fast, you can't see all these little details.
Notice.
You don't notice that. And then because, if nobody's there, like, you have to look at that way. But as a trainer, like, I'll tap on their body and stuff like that and teach them how to get that mind-body connection. And it helps. And it helps. They're like, oh my God, I can finally feel it where you're tapping. I'm like, now I feel it.
Totally.
So
one more question, which I think you're uniquely equipped to answer. What happens when you build muscle with bad form? Does sloppy form just cancel out all your progress, or what happens when you get bigger and you've used poor form?
You're going to keep doing it until one day you're just going to get hurt because you're going to go too heavy.
Yeah.
And you're going to get hurt. And really, there's going to be a point where you're not even going to see progress now anymore because your form is not right. And then it's just, and you're not even probably going to look symmetrical, because now you're working other muscle groups more.
Oh, that's the worst.
I know, I'm all about the symmetry. When people are working out, I'm looking around, I'm like, we need to work on this and that. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? What are you saying? I'm like, you're moving around so I can see the size of the other muscles. And I'm like, okay, that muscle should be a little bit bigger compared to this one because it is bigger. This one's smaller and all that stuff. So I'm all about the symmetry. And that's what's going to help even your posture and everything else. But yeah, with the bad form, like, you're rarely going to see anyone that's going to grow naturally.
Sure.
If they're using other things, they'll grow no matter how they do it. And
just get out of bed.
I've seen those
muscles.
too. I'm like, geez, I'm like, they just keep growing just looking at the weights. They don't even have to do it the right way. Just no matter how they do it, it's just. And I've seen so many people that are just doing it and they've been doing it wrong for years. And they'll come to me and we'll train and they're like, oh my God, all these years I thought I was doing it right. And now I feel completely at the different spot where I'm supposed to. It feels different.
Yeah.
But they their muscle grew and, they got stronger. It's just, they're now not symmetrical. Then maybe they're having some issues, pain in different areas because they got stronger on one side and not the other one. It's just, it's going to be something. They're going to have some kind of issue.
I'm really noticing that. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm picking on isolation, because of my own experience. I'm learning as you poke at me, I'm feeling parts of my muscles burn that I did not know existed. and that's the joy and pain of isolation is realizing that I'm touching places in my body through just angles and movement that I'm feeling get stronger in ways I've never approached. And it is fascinating to kind of feel like I'm doing a physiological experiment on myself, and super gratifying. And I think that's why I wanted to have this conversation about the idea of isolation and form go hand in hand, and can help in so many areas: injury, injury prevention, rehabilitation, but also just getting stronger and bigger and more cut and feeling better.
Yeah, it's very important. Like, I wish people would understand more, and that's why I'm like, when you have a trainer, like when they gets you through the workout, just ask about these questions. Why am I doing this? Where am I supposed to feel it? I'm feeling it here. Am I supposed to feel it here? All this stuff. Why are we in this position? Like, he should have an answer for all those questions.
Yeah.
You need to know exactly everything. It needs to make sense to you. that's how I go always. Okay, I'm only going to do it if it makes sense to me. Just because somebody tells me do this and you're going to feel here doesn't mean I will.
Yeah.
And doesn't mean I'm
Right.
going to do it. If it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to do it. So you have to know. So ask as many questions. You need to understand every position of your body. Even when you're working upper body, I explain where your lower body is in this position because it's all connected.
Yeah. That was, this is all fantastic. And I think the other thing that I appreciate as a client is being reminded to slow down and focus on control, because I don't do that sometimes, mostly because I'm afraid you're going to make me do more stuff and I'm trying to get away from you. But also because sometimes I'm feeling good and that causes me to be reckless.
Yes.
And that's just a thing that I feel like you are really good at helping me remember that.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. It absolutely makes a difference.
Yeah, that's
So
another thing that's also huge. I tell people always slow it down. Slow it down. I keep telling people like you should be in control every time.
Yeah.
Every movement you should have full control going up and down, positive, negative. If I was standing next to you and if I was just going to say stop at any time, you should be able to either stop or at least slow it down. Take control over that weight. Is when you start swinging, when you start pushing too hard and going too fast, that's when the weight takes control of you. That's when you get hurt. If I have control, I can stop. I know if I'm doing it wrong and I can stop it. I can prevent myself from getting hurt. But if I don't have control, that's when the weight takes control and it can pull you in different directions. And that's when you lose control. It will pull you in different ways and you're going to get hurt really easily. And that's how it always happens like that.
Yeah. This is great. Srdjan, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to the show. We sure appreciate you. If you've got questions about training or recovery or how to make strength work in your life, we want to hear them. Just scroll up in your show notes. Go to the show notes. There's a link. It says send a question to the coach. We will answer it on an upcoming episode.
If you have a question about certain exercises, how to do it, how to execute it right, where you're supposed to feel it, and all this stuff, you should do them or not, like just ask and I'll address every single exercise and explain everything.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that up, because what we really should do is we should have a conversation about the exercises that you said there are exercises I'll never do. What are the exercises you'll never do and why? We should talk about that another time.
We should do it, because I'm having discussion actually on Facebook with a lot of people that I made a comment on certain exercise, and I'm getting a lot of feedback, and a lot of people are agreeing, and some of them are just going after me. So I'm trying to explain like the details and why and all that stuff, and I can tell how some people are just like not listening because they're all those ego lifters and stuff like that.
Ego lifters.
It was it's funny, but we'll definitely talk about it, and I'll explain some of the stuff some of the exercises that I never do. I haven't done them in years and years, and people just get shocked when they hear it. They're like,
"My God, and you're still walking?
Do you haven't, and you look like that?" They were like, "What?" I'm like, "That's not the only thing so many things, different ways that you can get stronger and develop the muscles. It's crazy."
All right, we got to put a fork in it. We are done. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, subscribe and share. This is how we grow stronger together. Thanks for listening to Build for Health, and we'll catch you next week in the gym.